Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wassalam ala nabiyyina Muhammad. All praise is due for Allah, and peace and blessing be upon His last Prophet Muhammad. We're at the last leg of the race here, and today we're going to be talking about mental health challenges for Muslims and conflicts of identity. And as you know, mental health issues are something that is a human issue. It's not something that is specific to Muslims or any other faith or population of people. So without further ado, I want to just get started because we have a lot of speakers that we have to get through and time is limited. I would like to actually first introduce Brother Bilal Ali, if he wouldn't mind coming up. He was a state of Maryland delegate.
Thank you.
Like
Is this on?
here, you can.
Yep. Oh, okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the most merciful and compassionate. Being the only state legislator from Baltimore City, I know how it feels to be alone and ostracized. But the point that I want to make is this. First of all, I want to thank the TAME group because this is so necessary in that process of educating the public in general about what true Islam is all about. I think it has been a total miseducation about the fundamental tenets of faith of Islam, and I think we operate out of so many stereotypical ideas that this interferes with you getting or being able to connect with the person. I think the common denominator is we're all human. We all have shared values. I think language is so important because when you prescribe a certain adjective to an entire religion as opposed to decompartmentalizing behavior of individuals who may or may not embrace an entire faith. So I think the takeaway today is we have a mess that we hope there's a message that you take away from here today and better understanding that people do not represent Islam. And what I mean by if an individual does something that we know is contrary to the fundamental principles of Islam, we don't generalize or paint the entire religions with one brush because we don't do that with any other religion. It seems like Islam has become that target that when someone does something and they supposed to profess belief in Islam, then the whole religion gets a bad rap. We need to educate ourselves more to be able to differentiate between that particular person's behavior and accepting personal responsibilities for those acts, no matter what they may be, as opposed to demonizing an entire religion. I'm here to support these brothers. It's a lot of things that I have been able to do within my own community. I've been very effective in the anti-violence movement, whether it's working with gangs. I think Brother Akil made a very important point about the criminal justice models that we use. Currently, we use 3 models: deterrence, incapacitate, and deterrence. And either you fit in one of those boxes or you don't. It's no integrated model that comes out of criminal justice that we are currently using, but we should have a more integrated model, because there's different individuals in different circumstances that we need to evaluate individuals in order to appropriately assess those individuals. And given the political climate that we are in now, as we all know, we have a lot of work to do as individuals. And I think the brother had said it earlier, that we should be ambassadors to go out, because many of us have Muslim neighbors, and we need to debunk a lot of these stereotypes that are out there, because at some point they take on a life of their own, or people think that they are the truth, and a half-truth is disguised as a truth, does more damage than the actual truth itself. And they say the worst thing that you can do to the truth is stretch it. So I just wanted to give a few words, because I know we're strapped for time, and I want to make sure that this important dialogue continues. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Brother Bilal. Now we're going to hand it over to Ibrahim Aziz. He's going to share a few words, experience.
Our honored guest, often when we discuss terrorism, extremism, radicalization, it's done in a very impersonal manner. We use terms such as FTFs, foreign terrorist fighters, FTOs, foreign terrorist organizations, or HVEs, homegrown violent extremism. However, there is no one reason or one cause why someone becomes lost to extremism. There's no one size fits all. The desire to connect, to be accepted, to be part of a unified body is something that is a way that we define ourselves. What I'm asking us all here to consider is that in some cases, these acronyms, our lack of nuance when discussing this sensitive topic, and the overgeneralization can be dehumanizing and can in turn lead to a blanket miscategorization and labeling of an entire group, Muslims. My name is Ibrahim Aziz. My brother Jalil Aziz was charged in December 2015 with providing material support to ISIL. I can still remember the frantic phone call from my grandmother, we call her Yaya. During the call, she could hardly speak. I could hardly make out her words. I'm trying to get her to calm down and explain to me, hoping she's overreacting to something very minor. Yaya, I can't understand you. Yaya, please calm down. What are you trying to say to me? After about 3 minutes or so of her trying to get her to calm down, I'm finally able to make out what she's saying. They took Jalil. Who took Jalil? I think the FBI. Jalil? My little brother? It must be some kind of mistake. See, the house my sister and I grew up in had its share of problems. It was riddled with undiagnosed mental health problems. My parents had a unique view of the world. They would say, it's very dangerous out there. Don't trust people. Don't trust your friends. In fact, it's probably better not to have any friends at all. For the majority of my early childhood, we could neither visit friends nor have friends over at our house. However, my sister and I, we had each other. We went to public school. We were exposed to other individuals and children. We had my grandmother, aunts, and uncles. And as I got older, I found comfort amongst the larger Muslim community. After I moved out on my own, I had encountered tremendous difficulty adjusting to life. The real world was nothing that was described when I was growing up, and I was unprepared. I could work, I could provide for myself. It wasn't about income, but I didn't know who I was. And I lacked self-identity, let alone a positive self-image. There was an older Muslim social worker in our community, and he was the first to suggest that I receive professional help. It took about 10 years before I could realistically say that I liked who I was, that I felt good about who I was and who I am. My little brother didn't attend public school as I did. My little brother was not allowed to communicate or be with my sister and I. He wasn't allowed to interact with his aunts and uncles. My little brother had no friends, and he was intentionally ostracized and sequestered from everyone. And while I can't discuss the details of the case, I can tell you he was isolated. How do I know he was isolated? Because I felt isolated. I can tell you he felt alone. How do you know he felt alone? Because I felt alone growing up. And his case is more severe than my own. And I can tell you that I was searching for acceptance. And so I know he was searching for acceptance. On rare occasions, when I was allowed to interact with him and meet him, he was conversationally behind, inappropriately shy. I'm his brother, withdrawn. When he was around 17, talking to him was, you could equate to talking to a 10-year-old. He was socially behind. When my family and I went to see him for the first court hearing, it was my grandmother, Yaya, aunts and uncles, parents, and we were photographed by the local newspaper as we were leaving the courthouse. And the comments on the photo of that news article was, who are they? Are they Muslim too? We should kill them all. And mind you, in this picture is an 85-year-old woman in a wheelchair. And this is the example of the dehumanizing effect that I spoke about earlier. My little brother was isolated by his family, and in that isolation, he looked for acceptance. And in that searching for acceptance, he was targeted. Jalil Aziz, my little brother is not an anomaly. There are many people out there looking for acceptance. And now we have a group or groups that say, we'll accept you with all your imperfections. All you have to do is fill in the blank. Mental health challenges, isolation, yearning to be loved and accepted can be a catalyst and a precursor to violent ideology. It breaks my heart that my little brother has gone from living in one cage to now another. These nuanced details are left out of our daily terrorism conversation. And as we as a country look forward and look for solutions, there can be no one-size-fits-all. And my little brother needs help. My little brother needed help, and not the kind of help that a 6x8 cell provides. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim, for sharing such a personal story, and we really do appreciate you sharing that. That's part of breaking down the stigma of mental health. And so without further ado, just to our time, because of our time constraints, we will start with Brother Muhammad Hussein, if you would mind.
I think I need excuse me. I think I need a moment after hearing that story.
It was emotional. It was.
So, first off, I'd like to begin on behalf of the TAM group to thank all of you for taking time out of your day to join us. I know it's been a long day. We started at 10 a.m. Joining us in person, joining us online in what we feel is a really relevant, pertinent, and essential conversation. And that is how to effectively challenge extremism. It's something which is near and dear to my heart, and something that really impacts the lives of each and every one of us here. I'd also like to thank the museum for affording us this venue, and the Religious Freedom Center specifically for affording me the opportunity to be a student and to really study and dig deeper into the intersection of religious, civic, and legal discourse as it relates to the First Amendment. I myself am the executive director of an organization called SAFE, the Somali American Youth Foundation. I am a second-generation Somali American, the son of Somali immigrants, someone who is considered a community leader, especially in the Somali community. And what I'd like to talk about in these brief moments is radicalization in the Somali community, radicalization with Somali youth, and some of the many factors that do contribute to this radicalization. As you've heard time and time again, It's not just one thing. There are many different issues and factors that do contribute to radicalization. We just heard the story of Ibrahim and his brother, the isolation, the social awkwardness, the inability to converse even with family members. And before I begin, I'd like to just give a brief background about the Somali community, the Somali American community. There are, as many of you may know, there are hundreds of thousands of Somali Americans living in the US, and they are concentrated in certain pockets. The Twin Cities, Minneapolis, and St. Paul, Minnesota being one of them, Columbus, Ohio, Seattle, Washington, just to name a few. And in the past 15 years or so, there's been well over 100,000